Hey everybody, welcome to episode 65 of the Is That Normal podcast, and we have a guest today. We have our friend, Jared Wallace, and so welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Jared, we're so
Everything
glad to
you
have
ever
you.
dreamed of.
And that's right. I asked Jared if he'd be a part, and before I even got the question in my mouth, he's like, yes, absolutely. So he's excited to be here. Glad to have you. And we'll talk a little bit more about our connections and some of those things here in a minute, and talk about the topic of what we're going to talk about today, which I'm really excited. We think you are the man to share with us today.
I don't know about that, but I'll share my perspective.
Yes,
my opinions,
which is good. Yeah. Good. So, but the first thing we always do whenever we have a guest is ask them this question, because it's the Is That Normal podcast. So, Jared, what is one thing about you that is abnormal?
That's probably gonna be the heaviest question of the day, because there's a lot about me that's abnormal. There's a lot to share. I'll give you something that a lot of people don't know about me, or I cover it up fairly well. But something abnormal about me is I have a lot of tics and some compulsive behaviors. And as I've gotten older, I've learned how to control those and kind of hide those. And they don't affect my life in any major way, but I definitely had a lot of those as a youth, and so that was abnormal about me. Something that's interesting is my kids are probably gonna hate me for this, but I see some of those in my children as well.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to. I know how to balance that in their life, and I know how to not make those a big deal, but also kind of coach them through it. So it's not a major thing, but it's something that people who are close to me notice.
Yeah.
And but I hide well, and so don't try to find those during this. They usually come out in stressful situations. So
I don't see profuse sweating.
No.
Right,
it's just
I think we're okay.
certain things I have to do a certain way. So, so that is kind of intimate, abnormal thing about me.
So as you've learned that, has that become easy or like subconscious, or is it still a conscious thing for you all the time?
It's become a lot easier. Even just subconsciously. But as a kid, I knew I was doing them, obviously.
Right.
But nothing that would change my lifestyle or anything like that. I just learned how to kind of cope with them and balance them. So, yeah. But definitely have gotten better as an adult with dealing with that. So, yeah absolutely.
Well, awesome. So, for those that don't know you, you're a husband, you're a father, an educator. You've held a lot of different roles. You've been coach, teacher, ag sponsor, principal, and now you're getting ready to step into a new role as a superintendent, which is really exciting. And so it's safe to say you've had a little bit of experience with kids and extracurricular activities, and in that role as in helping parents and also as a parent yourself. And so we're going to talk just a little bit about that in a minute. But first question is, what was your favorite extracurricular activity growing up?
So I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. I loved sports growing up, and I played everything I could. And obviously I loved hunting and fishing growing up, very outdoorsy. So I loved everything involved with extracurriculars, and I still do. But I'd say probably the one that I enjoyed the very most was basketball. I just really fell in love with that sport and enjoyed the flow of the game and just the competitiveness. So, I'd say I really enjoyed basketball growing up. So.
Yeah. And extracurriculars are such a huge part of that growing up experience. As we talk about that today, there's a lot of value we're going to talk about and things that shape you. Randall, what were some favorite extracurriculars for you growing up?
Kind of like Jared, loved to fish. That was just something that, it was an activity I got to do with my dad as a family. We did that. We just did that a ton. That was kind of what we did in the summer, that was just our thing. And so, to this day, I enjoy that. And I think part of it is I enjoy the activity of it. Part of it is just because that's one of the things I had that I got to do with my dad a lot. But anything outside was really involved. Anything music related. Again, that also goes back to kind of it was a family thing that we did, and so those were for me were the things. Didn't really do a lot of sports because I was working during high school and things like that, and so those are the types of things that and was pretty involved in youth group during high school and stuff. So that was cool as well.
Yeah. I know for me, I was involved in a lot of things all through growing up as well. I wasn't quite as sporty. I've always said me and anything in a ball and coordination don't always work out very well. And then I was involved in choir and some music things. And there was one year where I don't think I was officially on the books, but I tried to get in every club picture for yearbook. Just Spanish club. And I never took Spanish in my life, and So, but
I can see that.
But probably I don't know if it's my favorite, but I would say that my most helpful extracurricular for me was student government. I got involved in that in junior high and was that through all high school. And I think about that a lot. Some of those things that I learned and the experiences I had and those times impact leadership and things I've done all throughout my life. And so really extracurricular can teach you a lot of things, can be a real benefit, can help shape direction in life as much as regular in class education can, but there's also got to be a balance, I think. And so that's why we asked Jared to come today, is kind of help us talk through some of those issues and kind of help parents think through those issues. So that's where we're going today.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back. And as we mentioned before, we're here with Jared Wallace, who we're going to just have a conversation today about extracurricular activities and some of the ways to try to balance that for parents and navigate, what today is very, very busy schedules for families and for kids. And so, we know almost all parents are dealing with just a ton of activities and interests for their kids today. And so we want to be a help and a resource for families and try to navigate some of those issues. So Jared, let's start positive. What are some of the benefits you see to extracurricular activities?
Oh, I think extracurricular activities are crucial. As you were saying, Mark, it's a balance, especially with as fast paced as our lives are, because we are going a lot of different directions as families. So, but I think when you talk about extracurriculars, I don't care if you're talking about sports or school plays or clubs or music. Just being involved and being part of something is really important for young people. I think that a big part of it is it teaches you a strong work ethic, and I think that is crucial. It's so many times as parents we think that we have to protect our kids. And it is important to protect our kids, but it's also important to let them struggle. And I think that it's extracurriculars. I tell people all the time, it is a controlled situation, and it is not the hardest thing your kids are ever going to go through. But it is a time where they can learn about struggles, both physically, emotionally, socially. They will learn about winning and losing, and how to be humble through that. And they kind of, it's such a developmental time in their lives. So it's a chance for them to be their own person and to really find their own enjoyment, because it is so much fun for kids. And it should be fun. But it's also, competition is important. And I tell people this, and I told them this as I was coaching. I told my boys as I coached at the varsity level, pain is okay. And sweat is okay, and pushing yourself beyond where you thought you could go is very important. So I think those are definitely some benefits. And there's also a lot of things that can be learned in locker rooms, and bus rides. I think there's some sisterhood and brotherhood that can occur that I think helps shape young people. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's really good. Boy, a lot of good things you pointed out there. And I know you said basketball was maybe one of your favorites. Yeah. What do you say? Why do you say that? What was really good about that for you?
I enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed the kids I played with. But I played as much as I could. Anything I play, football, basketball, a little baseball and track, and just whatever you could. And I wanted to be in all the clubs too. You want to be part of just everything you can be part of. So. But I just enjoyed basketball. I enjoyed kind of the flow of the game. I thought if you don't have to be the most successful at something to enjoy it. Yeah. But I do feel like it was something I felt very comfortable doing and being part of. It wasn't the sport I was the most successful at by any means. Wow, but
that's interesting.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as a sport. So yeah.
Boy, I also like what you said about having kids finding themselves in an identity and something they're good at.
Yes.
Yeah, is that a real value, you think?
It is. I think that it's important to, we can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
But it's also important to understand that they don't have to, your child, as my kids grow older, they don't have to be the best at things in order to be part of something.
Yeah.
It's important to be a role.
Wow.
I think sports teaches us to work hard, teaches us to push our limits, and same with whether they want to be in different clubs, music and band. I think all these things, FFA, whatever it is you're doing, it teaches you to really push yourself to be the best you can be. Doesn't mean you have to be the best on the team or the best in the group, but it teaches you that it's important to invest and be part of something and give it your all.
Yeah,
I think that is important in that season of life.
Wow, that's really, really good. Have you seen a change, would you say, in the focus of why people do extracurricular activities and even in students over your lifetime or your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can talk a long time about specialization.
Yeah.
And I think we're offered so much. There's so much that kids can do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's really important, and it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing for a lot of us, and myself included. But it's really important that as parents, we don't try to live through our kids.
Yeah.
So there's just so much going on that we want our kids to be able to try different things and enjoy different things. But that doesn't mean we need to live through them. We need to coexist with our children.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge, though. Especially as we see them struggle in things, and understanding just the balance of that. I try to look at it like this. I want to give my kids unconditional love. I don't want that. I don't want them feeling like I value them more or less based on a performance that they have, based on how good they are at something. Now, I want them to be the best that they can be in that season of life, whatever they do. But I want them to know that my love is not attached to that, to how they perform on something, and that's something I see people struggle with. That they give their kids a lot more attention and praise when they're really, really good at something, and they want them to quit something that they're bad at. Yeah. And I don't want kids to quit things that they're bad at. I want them to struggle through things when they commit to it. So,
man, we talk a lot about this on here, about the struggle of identity for kids today, and a lot of it is cultural, parental pressures, expectations, but at the same time, like you said, there's benefit of working hard and sweat and pain, and so yeah, that's a tough thing to navigate.
And a lot of what we do when we're good at something, we become a leader at that, and that leadership carries us through life. It is important. You're definitely gaining skills that are important, but you can go as far and as fast as you want to go with extracurriculars. Like you can dive into something and spend thousands of dollars and many hours. Living through your kids, and I'm not faulting anyone for that. There needs to be a balance there.
Yeah.
So
well, and as we continue kind of thinking, we kind of move from there's some benefits, but there's also some drawbacks and challenges, right? So and I think that pacing that you're talking about there is a big challenge, I think, for parents and kids, and a drawback. Do you see some wisdom in how to approach that?
I don't know if I have very much wisdom for anyone.
Yeah.
I have coached. I've been lucky enough to be put in coach. I've coached youth sports. I've coached junior high sports. I've coached varsity sports. I've been a head varsity coach on the boys' side for part of my educational journey. So and I've worked with other coaches some. So not that I have any more wisdom than anyone else, but I do have some experience. So I just think I think that we have to have priorities in our families' lives, and we have to say there's some things that we have to focus on, and that's where you find the time balance, because we only have so many hours in the day, and we can be stretched really thin, and we can miss out on. I think it's important that when our kids are busy, that doesn't mean that we have to be really busy with them all the time. Wow. We want to be there, we want to be present, but we want them to go through some of those, especially as they get into high school, go through some of those struggles on their own, and we just be on the sideline as a support figure.
Yeah. We'll mention him here in a minute. at the end. But Greg Dale, who is a professor and a coach at Duke University, and he does a lot of training for schools and parents on these things. And he said one of the phenomenons they're seeing at the college level is parents following their kids to college, showing up at practice on the college level. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
and he sees a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a bigger, I mean, what do you like, I think around 2% of high school athletes played Division I sports, and that's all high school athletes, and there's a lot of them in the country.
Right.
And the professional level, it's so much smaller. Not saying you shouldn't have goals, you shouldn't have dreams, and I mean, we know people that go on and play at those higher levels, but it is important to let our young people be their own people.
Yeah.
And suffer through their own journey a little bit, and also excel on that journey. So, yeah.
So have you found any answers as far as how do you find that balance of what's enough, what's too much, and how to balance that both for your kids and even you kind of alluded to as parents, for parents even, because there's a lot of parents out there that the vast majority of their waking schedule is centered around the activities of their kids.
Yeah, and not that we're faulting people for loving their kids and supporting their kids. That's not at all what I want that to come off as. But we can exhaust ourselves and miss. Like there's nothing wrong with not being an expert in something, and also your kid doesn't know that. Like you just go out in the backyard and you can play with them and you can teach them stuff, the way probably our parents did with us. And I know they weren't experts necessarily, but they played catch and they, pushed us to have the work ethic that we have. So there's nothing wrong with, you don't have to have the shiniest or the fanciest or go the farthest to do something. And I mean that like you don't have to travel like long distances and chase tournaments and stuff or chase, whatever it is. Maybe you're in the music and you don't have to have you could just have to have the best guitar and so it's.
Don't tell my wife that.
Yeah. So it's well, we all want our kids to be extremely successful, right? We want them to find their passion and be the best they can, and that is important. But we have to be realistic too about it's their journey, and we are all just kind of role players in each other's lives. We're not the best at everything.
Yeah.
So I just think you have to kind of slow down and say this. And I think it's really important that kids are experienced to a lot of things, a lot of clubs, a lot of sports, and they're not. A lot of specialization occurs, I feel like, too early on. Kids will wean themselves out of things they don't want to do, but expose them to a lot of different things in just short windows, and then let them go through those short windows of what they enjoy and figure out what they want to make their craft at that. I say that season in their life because it is a short season in their life. They're going to do it, but I've never had a kid tell me they regretted trying something. I've had young people tell me they regretted not trying something. So I just a lot of good can come from giving them a lot of exposure to a lot of different things, but not taking it too serious, especially early on.
Yeah. Boy, lots of wisdom there, Jared, and I really liked what you said about parents being willing to go out and play catch with their kids or invest in their kids. And I think that brings out a really important part about this is that we have to remember our goal. We have to remember why we're parenting, what we want, and as far as what we believe and what we are encouraging parents is we want to raise children who love the Lord, serve Him with their life, make their decisions based upon God's wisdom and truth, lead families, have healthy habits, all of those things. And parental investment is such a key factor in kids being raised that way. And if we always are pushing our kids off to someone else, we're missing that connection point. And that's really smart and well said. I appreciate that.
When our kids get older and they do go to coaches or clubs and they have advisors and it's important that we are supporting our child and telling them, hey, I want you to work hard. I want you to be the best you can be, and I want you to, as long as it's a safe situation, listen to that person, be coached by that person. It's important that we support the whole system, because at the end of the day, it is about raising our children, and we are hopefully raising our children to be godly young people that can go out and find their way in this world, and there's a lot of things that are going to be obstacles for them.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to create situations where they're going to be unsuccessful because we don't show support for a team or for the coach.
Yeah.
And that's just it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because we all are opinionated.
Yeah, we're wanting to build their character, and I think that's a huge
yes,
part of
yes.
all of this. Is, you know, like you said, there's this small percentage of kids who are, this is going to be a profession for them, but there's so much value in character building.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we want them to, like, there's nothing wrong with just being the best you can be in this season.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I love it seeing when these young people, let's say high school sports, for example, just being a great high school athlete. That's so great for them. And that's such great memories. It doesn't matter if they carry that on to anywhere else after that, because they were the best they could be in that season of life. And that's something they can take a lot of pride in. So, but yeah, we need to be very supportive of them and of the whole system, you know.
Well, Jared, I want us to take a few minutes here and kind of get real practical. Like I said, we really want to help parents, and so just a few things, just kind of think through, like maybe some best practices, or you know, kind of our thoughts on that. So, you know, first of all, like how many extracurricular activities should somebody be involved in at a time? And I know we have a family limit at our house, you know, but like what would you have a recommendation?
We try to do just one at a time.
That's us
I think it's really important. If you start doing more than that, you take away from the focus. Because I do tell young people. And I'll speak mainly to high schoolers because that's where I spend the majority of my time coaching. At this craft, at this time in your life, that's your craft. Just like I have a job, this is your job. I want you to be the best you can be at that during this time in your life. So I need you to focus on that and work really hard at that. Now, when you move on to the next, that is your time to focus on that. So I think we start blending them. We start pulling away from. That's when kids start quitting stuff because they only gravitate towards what they're the very best at, or what their parents want them to be the best at.
Right.
And we don't want that. We don't want kids we want to see kids finish something out. So you focus on that one thing at a time and have a short window, and a shorter window as they're younger, and then take breaks in between and move on to the next. And high school sports are very conducive to that because they have seasons.
Yeah.
And so let them focus on that one thing at a time.
Yeah,
So.
That's good. How about like age and when to start getting like in those serious investment places? Where's kind of maybe the range of when that's a really good time to do that?
That's a great question because I have little ones right now, right? And I feel like we might be a little like I have a kindergartner, a third and a fourth grader, and I can already tell we're behind for them. But I don't have any major expectations for what they're going to do. Like I know their genetic deficiencies. Okay, so I know the stock that they come from. Yeah.
So there might be some variance based upon some of those issues. I see.
But early on in life, like I'm outside with them. You know, my little boy, we're wrestling around, we're playing catch. My girls, we're whatever they want to do. If it's fishing, we're going fishing. If it's you know, tossing the ball in the backyard, we're doing that. So I don't think there's that stuff. It's very appropriate to introduce that early on.
Yeah.
Competitive sports, usually the community will have something. Mm-hmm. So I encourage people to volunteer, be a youth coach. You learn a lot about patience and about you know, having conversations with other adults and seeing both sides of it. So I think, but keeping it local is a great thing early on. So
very good point. I like that.
Not that you have to. I just think for me, that's what I think is going to work for my family. Yeah. Because otherwise we take away from time at church, or we take away from time with our family, or you know, things that are important to us.
Because like you said, I mean, those seriously competitive traveling kind of that's aging down all the time.
It is. And I mean, honestly, there's money to be made. Mm-hmm. Like if we're being honest about it, there's a financial gain to be made by doing that. So that's where a lot of these promoters, not that they're wrong in doing that, but there is money tied to it. It costs a lot of money to be involved in some of these youth sports. And I'm not judging them for that at all. I'm just saying that there's an industry there, and that's the real of it, you know. Yeah. So and there's a lot of youth sports going on right now, and not that that's wrong. Just keep an eye on your kids. Keep a balance there because you don't want them to. I mean, kids are going to quit a lot of things in life, and you don't want them to quit something and then regret it later on because they didn't see it through, because maybe they just had some bad experiences early on. Kids can get scared and
too much
too
soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember like youth sports. There was a lot of intimidating and things, with youth sports, especially when you have people coaching who've never coached before, and so they get pretty invested in it, and
emotions get high.
Yeah, and youth are processing a lot.
Yeah,
and they don't know how to handle their emotions just in general. So,
so keep that perspective. Why are we here? We're investing, giving our kids an opportunity to investigate what they might be interested in.
Yeah, and I have no problem with pushing kids, with making things hard on kids.
One last practical to talk about is maybe, and you mentioned this a minute ago, is that prioritization. Like you got family, you got your faith. You've got education. You're supposed to be like doing schoolwork, and then you got these extracurricular. Like how do we make some of those choices?
I think you if anything gets in the way of your church time and your faith, well, then it's definitely you definitely need to reevaluate that. And same with your family. Obviously. There's going to be, as kids get older, they don't spend as much time with their parents. That's not necessarily a bad thing either, especially as they're in like middle school and high school. I get that. But you have to make sure what's at the center is it's unwavering. That your faith as a family and as a believer is first. And if other things get in the way of that, you better reevaluate what you're doing.
And we've kind of even talked about that in previous episodes, to where the example you set as a parent communicates to those kids, whether verbally or just by your action, what is the priority. And so they're going to see whatever we make the priority, that's what they're going to see as the priority, and that will stick with them as they get older as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely will.
Well, Jared, thank you so much for your experience and your insight on these things. We just really want to be a resource, and we know this is just kind of scratching the surface, starting a conversation for people. We also like to point people in directions that they want to know more. And like I said, Dr. Greg Dale out at Duke University, I think, has a great perspective on this, and he has he's several books, but he's got one that would really be helpful for parents, which is called The Fulfilling Ride: A Parent's Guide to Helping Athletes Have a Successful Sports Experience. And he gives just a wealth of information on all the things we've been talking about today. So we'll have a link for that in the notes of this episode if you want to check that out. So do you have any last words of wisdom for parents or young people, Jared?
Whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your abilities. And I'm talking to the young people here. Whatever you're involved in, really give it your all, is what I would say. Don't sell yourself short and look for a way out. Once you commit to something, really enjoy the struggle of it. And as parents, I just support your kids, support the whole that's going on, the coaches, the other parents. Be an example for others, because it is an enjoyable season of life. It's enjoyable to see your kids thrive, to be successful, to be part of something, and that's a great thing. But just make sure you keep things in the right focus.
Very good.
All right. Well, good stuff today. So as we wrap up, our two takeaways, one is just to maybe evaluate your kids' extracurriculars, and maybe look at that prioritization of what is important and what are you making the focus, and even just some of these things that Jared shared as far as how you approach that, and what kind of examples we're setting for our kids, and how we're utilizing those activities to help grow our kids into functioning, healthy adults. And then the second is just to join us in 2 weeks for our next podcast as we start a 2-part series on what to do when someone blows it. We've got stories.
It's going to be fantastic.
All right,
about other people.
That's right. All right. Think we can do this?
We can do this.
All right, here we go. Ready? Be abnormal.
abnormal.